This is definitely the most touching story from another world. A girl with a beautiful face. She woke up and lost her hands. She was replaced with a prosthetic hand made of metal. It makes people look very distressed, but she doesn't care about herself. Instead, he was extremely concerned about the safety of his superior, young ancestor. Even Xiaozu's best friend can't stand it anymore. How can there be such a silly girl in the world? Girl's name is Willet. She was born in a time of war. It was picked up by the Major's brother. Due to his amazing combat talent, the army has trained her to become a humanoid weapon that follows orders. Let her join the Major in the battle. In the last war, she lost both of her arms. When he woke up, the Major was gone. He wants to write to the Major, ask the other party to recall themselves as soon as possible. But it was never passed on to the Major. So, I can only continue to wait in the hospital. I didn't expect to wait, Major. Instead, I waited for the Major's friend, Lieutenant Claudia. He kept asking the Major how he was doing. Claudia was silent. The Major can only give the order, take him out of here, as an excuse, and successfully took Valerie out of the hospital. However, before leaving, Valerie noticed that the brooch the Major had given him was missing. He got really anxious, until Claudia promised to help him retrieve the brooch. This calmed his emotions. In Violet's heart, the Major is his master. Even he chose a puppy doll as a discharge gift. Also because someone said he was the Major's dog. Subsequently, Claudia sent her to a relative's house. I hope she can be my mother-in-law's adopted daughter. I'm not used to transplantation yet. Willie accidentally spilled the tea. The mother-in-law is worried that she is hot. She calmly told her mother-in-law, I can't feel the temperature. After all this has been, it's a pair of prosthetic hands. Fortunately, the lady took great care of her. Not only did he give her a pair of gloves, let her make this her home, treat them as their biological parents. But Violet's EQ is 0. Just say you don't need your parents at all. One sentence chilled my mother-in-law's heart. The angry Claudia called out directly, which was also the order of the young ancestor. You must live happily here, then turn around and leave. Unexpectedly, Violet suddenly rushed out the door. He completely broke the defense. Even the disabled can go to war. So don't ever abandon him. Claudia was helpless. I had to take him back to my letter company. Let him work as a mail carrier first. Unexpectedly, he regarded his work as a military operation. Colleagues asked him to organize letters. He was working all night long. My colleague had to ask him to deliver it. And he worked from morning till night. Stayed up late at night without resting. Until Claudia found out. Someone is still delivering letters so late. What kind of black-hearted company is this? The result is, it's your own company. He hurried out of the car and stopped Willet. Only then did Claudia realize. Willet still did not escape the shadow of war. Claudia doesn't explain much, because he believed that one day, Willet will come to his senses. The next morning, a male client came to the door. I hope the company can write a letter for him. Letter to my childhood sweetheart in the country. Willet brought him to Debbie. Hear the dresser Gadelia describe. When a man is in the mood. He kept recalling the scene with the Major. When I finally learned that this feeling is love. Willie was shocked. The Major also told him, I love you. But he doesn't understand what love is. To make sense of it all, he asked Claudia to change the guard. He also has to do ghostwriting work. So Valerie became a ghostwriter, responsible for helping people write letters. Except for him in the store. And 3 ghostwriters. They are Alice, who just graduated. Erica used to be a ghostwriter. And the best ghostwriter, Gadria. The task of banging Willet. Naturally, it was handed over to Gadria. He started by teaching how to use a typewriter. Then, I took a textbook. Let Willet hit the textbook. As a result, he directly switched one to 5th gear. It's a quick hit. Scared Gadria to stop him quickly. Otherwise, the machine will have to let him dry and scrap. The next job is even more complex. A mother wants to write a letter to her son. cried halfway through. He said they interrupted the business. Should stop crying immediately. A guest is not satisfied with the letter written by Alice. I want to cheat and not give money. She said it was illegal. I was fucked on the spot. Then another female guest arrived. She wanted to write a love letter to Gadelia. Gadria is on a business trip. The female guest has to say the request first. It turned out that a boy was chasing her recently. She has a crush on people. I don't want to agree easily. I hope the other party can show a little more sincerity. This order should have been taken over by Alice. It is conceivable that I have been scolded by the guests before. She hesitated for a moment. Unexpectedly, Willie did not hesitate. Took the order on the spot. The result can be imagined. In a few days, the female guest came to the door in a huff. It turned out that her relationship was completely yellow. Veritas told the suitor directly, "She has only a little affection for people. So I won't promise each other, unless you prepare a lot of gifts." The female guest was crying so sadly. But Valerie doesn't know. Where did you go wrong? She clearly wrote according to the guest's wishes. Willett with 0 EQ. Start to doubt. Are you not suitable for contemporary competition at all? Fortunately, everyone in the company is willing to help him. Gadelia dressed him up. It looks more delicate and beautiful. Claudia helped him get it back. The jewel brooch the major gave him. It turns out that the brooch was stolen and sold on the black market. Claudia spent a month's salary. I just bought it for him. The brooch gave him new courage. He must understand what love means. But before that, he has to go to the training class to study first. Be a qualified ghostwriter. In the classroom, Willett's spelling speed and accuracy. All full marks. Everyone was impressed by him. But the next day's class didn't go so well. The teacher made them pair up. Write letters for each other. I want to see how expressive it is. Willett's partner, the redhead. I wrote him a letter soon. But Willett wrote a mess. Almost pissed the teacher to death. A qualified ghostwriter. It must be taken from people's words. Distill their true intentions. The current Willett is obviously not qualified. The child hair girl is afraid that she will be sad if she is criticized by the teacher. I took her to the bell tower that I loved to go to as a child. The scenery of the city is unobstructed. Then Valerie remembered the major again. She also described such a beautiful landscape at the time. Then the two prepare to say goodbye at the station. I didn't expect it to be at this moment. The red-headed girl saw his brother arguing with the people in the pub, smelling of alcohol. After the redhead girl brought him home, he collapsed on the sofa and fell asleep decadently. Such a desperate life makes the redhead very sad. A few days later, finally, Lecture Jack's day. The redhead girl successfully received her graduation badge, and Violet naturally failed the course. To help Wei, Elliot writes a real letter. The redhead got into a long conversation with her. It turns out that the redhead girl's brother was called up to the army, being stationed on the Western Front far from the soldiers. So the family felt that the war was far away, until my parents went west on errands. The Western Front was breached. His parents are dead. I didn't even have time to leave the relics. My brother's mood changed dramatically after his return. I've always regretted not being able to hold the line. His parents died because of his incompetence. After this, I drink every day to relieve my worries. Living a decadent life. Redhead girl's heart is like a knife. He wants to tell his brother, just survive. I'm already very happy. Maybe it was touched inside. Willie finally felt the redhead's heart, and I wrote him a letter and handed it over to my decadent brother. My brother burst into tears. Regret for your obsession. This letter helped the redhead convey her heart. It also let my brother lock out the quagmire of pain. The teacher recognized his ability, so I reissued him with a graduation badge. This is also Willie's first time. Feel the heart of others. He is one step closer to understanding love. After going back, colleague Alice received the first nomination commission. Coincidence? This commission is precisely from his hometown. Instead, he fell down the stairs, broke his right hand. The typewriter is gone. In desperation, he had to take Willett back home with him. Let him type for himself. Two people leaving the train station. Alice's family came to pick him up in an ox cart. Although it is nice to see my family, but Alice was still thinking about naming his client. Finish the job first. I didn't expect that the client this time was actually his. Mom heard it was a false commission. The two are leaving immediately. In order to retain them, Mom had to place another order to entrust my daughter to write the invitation letter. I planned to hold a grand birthday party for him. Alice was quite happy at first, until he saw the invitation list, only to find that it was almost entirely composed of nearby young boys. So this birthday party, in fact, his parents hope that he can go home and get married and have children, just prepared for a blind date. Alice was very unhappy about this. I had a big fight with my parents on the spot, especially after seeing someone named Amy. He insisted that Willett don't send him an invitation. As expected, on the day of the party, Amon was still invited to the scene. Alice is not happy. Immediately hide in the room and cry. No one can call out. After calming down, Alice realizes that Belliot means no harm. I told him the story of myself and Amon. It turned out that the two of them were childhood sweethearts. Amon has always been gentle and considerate to him. This led Alice to believe that they were in love with each other. But when he mustered up the courage to confess, but was rejected by Amon. This is also why he chose to leave his hometown. The reason for becoming Debbie Garden. Now Alice finally understood. Why does Violet have to be a contemporary competitor? Because his major gave him his love. And he doesn't understand what love is. Nowadays, he is striving to find the true meaning of love. Late at night, Alice finally made up her mind. Entrust Willie to write a letter for herself. She wants to apologize to her parents. And I poured out all my heart. The family finally made a smooth reconciliation. After that, the two easily embarked on the return journey. I also saw a beautiful iris flower. It turns out that Alice was born in the season of iris blossoms. His name is also derived from the iris flower. These words reminded Willett. He didn't even have a name until I met the major. The moment I saw Violet, I just gave him the name Willett. When Willett comes back, I happened to meet the major's brother. His words were extremely mean. Come up and mock Willett. Just a butcher who can only kill. Is it appropriate to write letters to people too? But Veritas doesn't pay much attention. He moved on to his next job. This time Debbie Garden came to the planetarium. The redhead is also among them. This time the job is to help excerpt the literature. Under the arrangement of the curator, a ghostwriter teams up with a staff member. Interpret and record the data separately. Leon is Willett's partner. In the beginning, he still didn't like the weak-looking Willett, so deliberately hide fast. I want to embarrass Willie. I didn't expect that no matter how fast he hid, Willett can keep up. The two cooperate very well. Tripled the original workload on the first day. Received praise from the curator. As a result, the next day, someone said bad things about Leon. I want to use this to poach Willett. They told Willett, Leon is a bad-hearted orphan. Mother is also a slutty woman. So you'd better come and team up with us. Leon was listening silently upstairs. I'm not going to go down and refute. But Violet responded to these people with a straight face. He was an orphan himself. I haven't even met my parents. So I'm not qualified to team up with you. A few people were speechless by Violet. I had to leave in embarrassment. After this. Leon also has a good impression of this upright girl. 3 days later, the comet streaks across the night sky. Uneasily, he invites Valerie to watch. After getting his affirmative answer, Leon is even more excited. From that moment on, and he was looking forward to the night in 3 days. For that day, Leon takes Willett to the roof. I also specially prepared blankets and hot tea. Under the still, starry sky, Lion opened up to others for the first time. She told me her story. Turns out his mother was a homeless entertainer. I used to go around performing for a living. He later fell in love with Leon's father. I stayed here until Leon's father disappeared while he was away. His mother seeks his father, desperate to leave young Leon behind. He has been an orphan ever since. After listening to the story of Lion, Willie couldn't help but think of herself. The only thing he ever had was the Major. And now he's separated from the Major. Under the guidance of Lion, Willett realized for the first time, after being separated from the Major, the unspeakable depression inside. It's loneliness. At this time, Leon wanted to confirm, does Violet like herself too? So I asked him if during the work contract, there is news of the encounter at the outpost, how will he choose? But Valerie said she had no choice. At the same time as the Leon incident, the beautiful comet has finally arrived. For humans, a comet that only appears once in 200 years. It's a once-in-a-lifetime encounter, although short-lived, but brilliant enough. It'll last a lifetime. For Leon, the same is true of Willett's appearance. He brought great courage to Leon. When the work is done, and you are about to leave, he told Willett, my dream is actually to go to the world like my father, collect literature from various places. He used to be afraid to go out because of his mother. But now I have enough courage. He is also going to start his own journey, because only in this way can we have a chance to meet him again. Until the girl is gone. He just shouted out his heart, give everything to Mom. By Yi's side, it seems that it will be given to others tomorrow. Then, Dad is going to do it to Mom? After the show Mood, Willett begins the next journey. This time, his employer was a very famous playwright. His plays are always sold out. However, recently he has been in poor health. He needs a ghostwriter to help him continue to create. So, I called Willett. He came to the playwright's house. The playwright was stunned when he saw him, because Waymay looks so much like his late daughter. Although the playwright soon regained his composure and made an appointment to officially start work the next day. But Willett couldn't be idle. He tried to persuade the playwright to stop drinking. They wouldn't listen, and the playwright called him over. I didn't even have paper for typing. Let Valerie buy it herself. Even asked him to help with cooking. Valerie cooks for the first time. Can't even hit an egg. Although I made a lump of noodles. But the playwright still eats the noodles very much. As time goes by, the two also slowly became acquainted. A story conceived by a playwright deeply moved Willett. The protagonist is a fairy stone girl. But after all the adventures, he eventually lost his ability. Can't cross the lake. Returned to his hometown to be reunited with his father, who is waiting for him. How to bring a little girl home became a difficult point for playwrights to write. Just as he was struggling with it, Willett accidentally emerged from the room, pulled out a parasol. The moment I saw him open his umbrella, the playwright suddenly rushed out. I knocked over the umbrella. It turned out to be his daughter's favorite umbrella. After the death of my daughter, the playwright lives in grief. Start writing again this time. Just to complete the story my daughter wants to hear. After losing his wife, his daughter was his only source of comfort. It lit up his life like a ray of light. However, I never expected. The daughter was sentenced to death by the doctor not long after, despite the playwright's best efforts. In the end, I couldn't keep him. What he can do for his daughter. Just finish the unfinished story. Let the girl in the story cross the lake. Back to Dad. Usher in a happy ending. Auntie UE has a unique angle. Look, you must see what you touch. Finally, the playwright remembered what his daughter had said. He hopes to harness the power of the wind. Fly over the lake with an umbrella. In order for the playwright to write this picture vividly, Willett himself came to the lake, pull up an umbrella, and jump to the lake. And that made the playwright burst into tears. It's like seeing a deceased daughter. With the assistance of Valerie, the script is finally finished. Before parting, the playwright gave her the umbrella to thank her, make this story come true. Through this experience, Valerie finally realized what you have done on the battlefield. How cruel. Relatives of the soldiers he killed. Why not feel sad? He walked off the cruise ship in despair. I met the wife who adopted him again. The other party saw the change in Willett. I am very relieved. This sentence directly drove Willett into the abyss. After getting the truth from Claudia, he immediately rushed to the ruins of the Major's death. Halfway there, Willett remembered everything about the Major. He was like a dog. The Colonel violently handed it over to the Major. Let him make good use of this weapon of war. But the Major is a man who hates war, just helpless to be born into a military family, unable to control one's own destiny. He's on Willett. I only see the harm that war brings to innocent people. Therefore, he was not sent to the battlefield. They were adopted at home. I want to treat him like a human being. It's a pity. Willett has long been used as a tool of war. They cannot adapt to normal living conditions. The outpost had to take him with him, join the war that followed together. Willett's record is also extraordinary. First time participating in action. Just paralyzed the enemy patrol team with one person. After that, the two spent more and more days together. In a small talk, the team found Willett looking at the butterfly, showing a smile that I never had before, realizing that he is still a living person. The tragic experience of war made him lose the emotion that a human being should have. So he decided to find his heart. Looking at the bright violets next to me, the Major named him in a vase. The cause is Willett. Then the Major began to teach Willett to read and write. In the long-term relationship between the two, the Major's guilt for the war gradually found redemption in him. He's slowly taking the risk out of it. The girl who was dedicated to protecting him developed love. As the war draws to a close, and many cities and towns are thriving again, on Thanksgiving night, the Major said he wanted to thank Willett. Let him choose a gift. Philae chose an emerald brooch, because the color reminded him of the Major's eyes. Every time I see this color, in his heart, an unspeakable emotion will come out. The Major was very touched after hearing this. I put a brooch on him, on the eve of the decisive battle. Shall you? To his good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Claudia. The reason why these two became close friends. It is also because they also hate war. Claudia told the Major. After the war, he planned to retire and start a company. And the Major hoped that only after the war was over, can take over Willett's life. He couldn't leave the army because of his background. Don't want Willett live in this environment again. So the two reached an agreement. The final battle begins. The two were ambushed during a raid on enemy headquarters. To save the Major, Willett also lost his hands forever. The two are trapped in the castle. The shelling has begun. Almost no chance of survival. But even so, Willett is still unwilling to give up. If you are in a hurry, you will bite the clothes with your teeth. Save the Major if you die. The Major finally couldn't suppress his emotions. Order Willett to leave. Claudia, who followed, told him. The night of the battle, the enemy is pushed back. Bombed his own command headquarters. Only Valerie was found at the time. This also means that it was the outpost who risked his life to save him at the last minute. See that Violet refuses to go back. Claudia is stubborn to be here with him, because it's a promise with a best friend.
Casticimio coltata.
Catfish. Hear this. Willett was finally willing to go back, but he's been hiding in his room ever since. Don't eat or drink. I don't want to see anybody. Major's death. Let Willett deeply understand the cruelty of war. And I'm clearly aware of that. How sinful his past murders were. So much so that he finally dreamed of the Major. The Major also spoke coldly to him in his dreams. Accuse him of not being worthy of bloody hands. Write a thank you letter to someone. Willett collapsed. His first time. Scream and cry. Let out the unspeakable pain in my heart. Can't be calm for a long time. Until he received a letter. It was worried that his colleagues had written to him. The instant I received the letter, he felt it. There are still people in this world who care about themselves. That's how he found out. It turns out that receiving a letter is such a warm thing. So, he went with the messenger to deliver the letter. On the way, Valerie outside the door. You can always hear the laughter coming from inside the door. It was the joy of receiving the letter. He remembers when we parted. What the old man said. There are no letters that are difficult to deliver, because every letter is an important thought for someone else. Back at home, Violet. Open letters written by colleagues. Her heart is filled with warmth. Colleagues are silently caring about her and waiting for her to come back. Valerie is finally relieved. On the way back, he saw a pot of violets in bloom and remembered Xiaozu's words again. In order to get rid of the shadow of war completely, he has to move forward again. That's all. Valerie started her next job. This time the employer is a seriously ill mother. Her daughter Annie is very well behaved. To give my mother a good rest. She often plays alone in the yard with the doll in her arms. It's just that she doesn't understand. Who is Mom going to ask the compiler to write to? Even if you ask your mother. Mom didn't tell him either. Instead, he secretly wrote letters without telling him. So that night, Anne went secretly to Willett. I want to find out who my mother is going to write to. After all, Dad died in the war long ago. Only their mother and daughter depend on each other. But even Willett wouldn't tell him. Just gently coax her to go back to sleep. Play with her tomorrow. In this way, the two became good friends. Annie also found this. Sister is actually very nice. Will tell him stories. Play games with him. But it's been a long time. Annie still feels sad. He told Willie, I still want to be by my mother's side. So, at least let him pass when you write. But this small request, Willie still can't agree. Pretty soon, Annie also found that her mother's illness was getting worse and worse. He finally couldn't help but rush in. I cried and begged my mother to stop writing letters. Even him. It can also be seen. Mom won't live long. I open the door. Annie can't take it anymore. Crying and running out. He's too young. I don't know how to face life and death. Willett caught up with him and tell him, some things can't be changed. We can only accept it with strength, like his severed hand and the major who can't come back. Then finally came the day to write the letter. Elliot is also leaving Annie. After waving goodbye to him, spent the last happy moment with my mother. Winter goes to spring. Mom finally left Annie, but it was also after this. He just found out who was the letter my mother desperately wrote to. Birthdays every year in the future. He would receive a letter from his mother. At every stage of his life, Mom has always been by his side. And Annie, he also passed on this love to his children. I believe he will live a happy life. In order to complete the protection of Anne's mother, Willie wrote 50 letters. It was the first time he cried in front of everyone. His emotions are also getting richer and richer. Then he refused any commission. Even the most dangerous commissions are no exception. He risked his life to reach the enemy's battlefield, to deliver a message to a frontline soldier. When he arrived at the battlefield, that soldier is dead. Before death, lovers' smiling faces kept flashing in the soldiers' minds. It seems to be his only spiritual support, so he exhausted his last strength. Let Willett write for him. The soldier's first letter is addressed to his parents. Thank them for their upbringing. I hope they can still be a family in the next life. The second letter is addressed to the beloved. How he wanted to see him again. It's a pity that all this can't be done. Valerie sent the letter back to his hometown. Heard the soldier's letter. The lovers also rushed over. But after seeing the tears of the soldier's parents, he also knows that his lover is gone. Valerie didn't know how to comfort them. I had to turn around and leave. Unexpectedly, the next second, the soldier's mother stopped him. The hunters on the side also thanked him. But Willett was crying.
He felt that way.
Feeling guilty for not being able to save the soldier. He at the moment, I just hope there will never be another war. Fortunately, recently, the country is gradually moving towards unification. To express the will for peace, they built the Transcontinental Railroad as a symbol of peace. With the completion of the railway, Messenger of Peace will bring the token clerk who is responsible for recording everything. Go through this railway for peace negotiations. As you can imagine, the opposition will do everything in their power to sabotage the talks. That's why the Major's brother was transferred, responsible for protecting the messenger of peace. But he wasn't the first to notice the danger. It was Willett. He keenly discovered there are traces of an explosion near the railroad tracks. So I rushed to the station as soon as possible. Gadria was found to be in charge of this negotiation. What Willett observed. It also made the Major brother further confirm. The opposition will launch an attack on the train. But even with Willett's intelligence, Xiaozu's brother, but still didn't give him a good face. Because he always felt, brother's death. It's all caused by the incompetent weapon of Willett. Little do they know that Violet. It is no longer a killing weapon. After the train departs, the Major's brother quickly confirmed the place where the opposition launched an attack. That's the Grandisa Bridge. After all, bridges are relatively easy to break and difficult to repair quickly. It's a great place to do it. Sure enough, it didn't take long. That's where the opposition started. They broke up the train cars. The guard and the messenger were easily separated. No more guards. And they were very confident. I think I can easily take down the messenger of peace. Let the war burn again. It's a pity that there is still Valerie in the car. Valerie doesn't want to kill anyone. So he climbed on the roof of the car without even bringing a weapon. Alone with the opposition. Willett doesn't understand. Why are they breaking the peace? It turns out that the opposition once fought for their country, dreaming of being honored. But now there's peace. They, the soldiers, were abandoned. It has even become a waste in the eyes of many people. Under such betrayal and abandonment, they decided to start a war. To regain one's worth in the war. Tao is different. The two sides are fighting again. Although Valerie is very skilled. But there are too many enemies. She soon got into trouble. And it got worse. Her most authentic brooch was also stolen. Seeing Violet's flustered reaction, the enemy immediately realized the importance of this brooch. For the treasure that young ancestor gave her, Veritas actually chose to take it easy, just as the enemy raised a knife to take her life. Xiaozu's brother arrived just in time, shot and saved her. Immediately take care of all enemies. After the dust settles, he didn't forget to mock, stabbing Willett's overreach. But as they argued, the enemy leader, who has just been knocked down, I actually climbed up again. Now it was Willett's turn to save his life. A series of shots to the head. One of Willett's is still broken after all. And the leader said that even if he wins, it is useless. Because there's a bomb on the bridge that's about to go off. Willett Wenyan rushed to the bridge immediately, struggling to break the bomb strapped to it. He only has 1 minute to defuse the bomb. Otherwise, everyone in the car will die. But the bomb just loosened a bit. His robotic arm suddenly collapsed. But he didn't give up. Keep pulling the bomb with all your might, even if one is torn off. He's also going to defuse this bomb. Just as he was about to fall, another companion arrived just in time. Saved him. The crisis has finally passed. In the presence of Gadria, the peace agreement was finally signed. The shadow of war has finally moved away from people. Everyone cheer. Celebrate the arrival of peace. Willett went back to the company. Continue his representative work. Next letter. Tomorrow is the aviation festival. People will write their hearts into letters, sprinkled into the sky by aircraft. Gadria also suggested that Willett write a letter. But Willett couldn't write anything. Seeing that the event is about to end, Claudia hurriedly urged him, express your feelings frankly. Just as Violet hesitated, the Major's brother actually found the door. It turned out that he also changed his impression of this killing weapon and brought Valerie into the house. Let him meet the Major's mother. The loss of his son made him a little confused. When I saw Violet, he even asked why his son didn't come with him. Until I saw Valerie's brooch. He just remembered that his son was gone. Even so, and he didn't blame her for a word. Instead, it comforted Violet. Although my son is gone, but he still lives on in his brother himself. And the heart of Violet. These words also made Valerie accept the reality. Before parting, the Major's brother gave him the final order. Let him live well for the Major.
Mom.
After saying goodbye to the Major's family, Willett wrote everything about his journey in a letter. He has become an independent person. I will never obey anyone's orders again. You don't have to be anyone's prop. He has come to understand what love is. Finally, this missing letter fluttered in the wind. Fly to a garden full of violets. Tears blurred his eyes. In his confusion, he seemed to see the Major again. The Major looked at him tenderly. Then he left contentedly. Violet, the first season of The Eternal Garden has come to an end. The story is about a young girl from a ruthless killing machine. The process of gradually learning to understand and feel emotions. Running through it was a strong anti-war ideology. The development of the story is gradual. Veritas with zero EQ. Go through all kinds of things step by step. Finally understand the relationship between people. The everlasting garden of violets is actually the language of flowers. Willett is violet, and violets symbolize eternal love. So the title can also be understood as Willett Love. The timeless theme of love is all too common. But whether it is an incredibly beautiful painting, the mood music, it's still character portrayal, all tend to be perfect. Overall, this is a work worth watching. The end of the story also leaves suspense. So, will Willett still have a chance to see the Major? Remember to help Sparkling Stories channel follow and like it. See you in the theatrical version.